Welcome back to another episode of the Experts in Fire podcast. I'm your host, Mike Vennard, and with me today is Randy Mowry. Today's episode is how to prepare your Masonry Firebox and Chimney for ventless gas logs. Let's get into it. Hey, Randy, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. How are you today, sir?
I am doing great as well. You know, we're sitting here recording this. We are 1 week away from Christmas Eve, so the parties have begun. How about you? You guys got the parties going already?
They're coming. Everything getting prepared for family here, there, everywhere.
You know, it's about the people we know and love, and so it's always awesome to get together and see people. But, you know, today, you and I get to see each other, which is rare because we're still in this state working from home. I'm looking at you right now.
I know. It's like about the only time that I actually see you is when it's time for recording.
Well, we're going to keep battling through this whole COVID thing. So all our listeners out there, we got your back. We're with you. Let's talk to our listeners about how to prepare your Masonry Firebox and Chimney for ventless gas logs. How would I even begin to prepare for something like that?
When folks are looking at gas logs, I do ask the question, and the first step is getting a professional chimney sweep out there, Mike. You know, we need to get that chimney cleaned. Inspected is always a plus. A lot of the chimney sweeps these days, they have cameras that they can run down so they can visually inspect those clay liners if there's a clay liner in it, and get that thing really, really clean. You want to get as much, if not all of that creosote out of those chimneys as possible. And I'm assuming that somebody's going from wood burning to gas, and they're looking to put some ventless gas logs in place.
Right. Yeah, that is one of the things that a lot of the people we talk with don't recognize when they're talking about wanting to put ventless log sets in there. Is even though, and we're going to talk about the damper and all of that inside of this Masonry Firebox, but you have to consider that chimney is still going to get warm.
Absolutely.
And any kind of creosote that's left inside there is going to warm up, and it's going to turn into a yucky ooze, and it's going to drip down. It can make a nasty mess. So I agree, Randy. The cleanliness, super important. That's what our pros out there are for, and that's what they do. They specialize in it. And I'm glad you brought up the inspection portion of it as well, because a lot of people think, well, I'm not really using the chimney for wood burning anymore, so I don't have to worry about it, right? No, you want that chimney to last a long time. And there's still heat that's going to move through there. So having them inspect it, make sure that it's still safe, make sure that you don't have any cracks or pieces missing. You know, we have stories of people who said, man, we had the sweep come out, and there's an entire section of clay liner that had deteriorated. I mean, it was almost not there anymore.
Absolutely, yeah. It could just be sitting on top of the damper, that smoke shelf area, just sitting there, had fallen at some point and nobody knew. In my previous house, if it wasn't for like an inspection, we would have never known that these sections were cracked so much. And then at the very top, it was actually deteriorating the exterior mortar joints. Yeah, so it's very important to have that professional chimney sweep come out there and not only do that cleaning, but run a camera down there, do a full inspection. It'll do yourself a really good service there.
Absolutely. And take care of that chimney because at some point, you may sell that house and somebody else might want to take those log sets out and replace with a log starter with that gas line there and turn it back into a wood burning box. So just go through the steps, do it right, and you'll find that in the end it's a good thing. Okay, so we've gotten the chimney cleaned. We've had our pro out. He's checked it out. He's given us the thumb up. We're good to go. What's our next step? What, you know, as we work our way down the chimney here, Randy?
I'm going to say this is going to be with the chimney sweep still on site, inspecting the damper itself. When you're doing a ventless gas log set, that damper is going to be in a closed position. And if it's a cast iron, if it's like the old cast iron style dampers that are in a ton of these masonry fireboxes, if that thing is starting to deteriorate, or maybe your damper door broke and you just never fooled with it anymore, never replaced it, this is going to be the time to inspect that. make the necessary changes and or replacements to that damper so that it can be closed so that you can use that ventless gas log set. And what you're doing there is you're maximizing the heat output, of course, because if you're using a ventless log set and that damper has got some rusted holes or breaks in it that is just going to allow that heat to rush up, you're kind of doing yourself a disservice because you're going to be losing a lot of that heat up through those cracks and rusted holes, things of that nature.
And again, over time, you're going to end up needing to remove it anyway. You know, when you think about a chimney, it's literally a hole in your house. That is, you know, one of the guys on my team used to sell like I did. And he's like, Mike, you just described what I used to tell all of my clients when I would talk to them. You literally have a balloon with a straw in it. That's what the damper does. That's the one piece that stands in the way between all that air rushing out or cold air pushing down and in. So it's definitely, I can't stress it enough, Randy. I'm so glad you brought it up. If that damper is deteriorating, now's the time.
Absolutely.
Let's not fool with it again.
Yeah. You know, especially, I never want to speak to the skill set of a homeowner, but it's just not it's just not one of those things as far as replacing something that someone's really going to necessarily know, oh, I'm just going to bust this out and replace it. The Chimney Sweep Pro is there. This might be something that it is in their line of work that they're used to replacing. It's the best time to get in. And if they don't, they may have a referral for possibly like a mason that can come in, chisel that out, replace it with a new one for you. I do want to stress the fact that if somebody is going to put a vented log set in, Mike, versus a ventless, it's a different position for that damper. So we want to check the damper, make sure that it's operable and everything for a vented log set. But a vented log set is going to come with what is called a damper clamp. And it is going to actually connect to that damper to hold that damper into an open position to allow that gas to escape. So it is two different applications. I can't stress that enough. Ventless product is not going to have the damper in the open position. A vented log set is going to require that damper to be in an open position, and that's why it is shipped with a damper clamp to be installed.
If you're maybe a little confused or have a question about that, we have other episodes where we talk about vented gas log sets versus ventless gas log sets, and the safety features of a ventless gas log set are in place to make sure that your home stays safe. A vented gas log set is just that. It is meant to vent out because there is danger involved if you try and close that damper and let all of that quote-unquote heat. I say it that way because people say, but I want all that heat. That's not heat. That's danger. That can hurt you.
Can't stress that enough. Make sure that thing is in the open position. Because when you are using the vented log set, that damper needs to be able to open fully when you're using that log set as if you are burning wood. Operational safety is completely different in a vented log set than a ventless.
You have fire-related questions, and we have answers. You can email us your questions at podcast@woodlanddirect.com or give us a call at 586-221-3638. We would love to be able to answer them right here on the Experts in Fire podcast. Okay, so our pro has come in. They've cleaned the chimney. They've checked the damper. Damper is all ready to go. What happens now?
Now we're into the firebox itself, Mike. And, you know, just from wood burning, that firebox is going to be full of, you know, possibly soot and creosote, things like that. You know, it just depends. So, you know, we might want to lean on the pro to clean that as well. They may have professional style cleaning materials to do that, aside from just getting in there with a wire brush and some soapy water. And getting that as clean as possible, because even though you're putting a ventless gas log set in there, anything that's in that firebox, if it's not cleaned properly, that soot could burn and smell. So you want to make sure that that firebox is clean as well. And that's, you know, all three walls, the floor, whether you're hiring, you know, that the chimney sweep guy and he's going to do that for you as well on a professional basis, or if you're going to do it yourself, it still needs to be cleaned before that gets done. Now, the other part of that is not only the cleaning, is checking the firebox walls, checking for deterioration of the mortar joints, making sure they're not all the way through the floor itself, checking for cracks there. So it's not only the cleaning part of it, but it's also the inspection. It's part of the overall inspection, top to bottom.
It sounds to me like this is quite a big project to turn a masonry style fireplace into just a gas log setting, and we're talking about ventless gas logs. And when I say big, I guess it's not huge, but when I think about it, it's dirty.
It is dirty. And you're right. It's not possibly that it's necessarily big. It may be big for a DIYer that doesn't have all the necessary tools to do the job correctly. You know, it could turn into a 1 day, 2 day, 3 day project versus hiring the pro.
Right.
It's like the pro coming in, you don't have power and you don't know what's going on. And he goes in and turns one screw. It gives you a bill and you're like, well, I could have done that. It was like, yeah, but you didn't know what screw to turn. So, you know, so it's the difference in that. And that's why it's so important to get somebody out there to do that initial. Now, you know, the painting and the inside of the firebox, maybe that's something obviously someone can do on their own. Hit their professional paint store for the proper materials, the paint and primers to use in that firebox. But I always feel that something like that, you know, it is good to get a pro out there to do these initial things. And maybe they can guide the homeowner to, you know, what to use, what product to use to do the finish work before they put that log set in.
Absolutely. I'm even thinking in terms of the cleanup, Randy. You can't just grab your standard vacuum. Those filters are not made for the fine dust and the fine creosote powder that you're cleaning up when you do these things. So I'm just warning any DIYer that might be listening who's thinking, I got this. If you put your shop vac to this thing, all you're going to do is shoot that dust throughout the entire house. I mean, I'm watching it just kind of go in somebody's home right now like a big cloud. So I'm with you there. This is a value to make sure you utilize a pro in these types of situations. They're going to be done quick too. And I think sometimes that makes us all feel like, man, I just paid for that and it was done that fast, you know, but it's valuable to have them do it. So, okay, Randy, you mentioned painting the inside of the firebox. There are certain things that folks can do. There are special paints for that. You can go to most of your major paint stores and they have that paint for you for inside a firebox. Once I have it all pretty and looking the way I want to go, I mean, it's pretty much just a matter of selecting a log at this point, right?
You have a couple other steps there. Getting the gas professional out there to run that gas line into the fireplace, getting it prepared and ready for the log set, and then choosing the log set. We have episodes on how to choose the right size log set, and that'll help folks guide them into choosing the right size. But we always still encourage everybody just to give us a call. Choosing the one you're right, get that gas guy to come back out, hook it up, and you are ready to roll.
You brought up a good point as well. I live in a tri-level, so, you know, we're working on it and making it nice. And to run a gas line to my fireplace downstairs, we were even talking, I don't think I could run one through the house. It would have to be dug outside and around. So if this is a part of what you're considering, hiring that pro to clean everything is important. He'll be able to probably advise. I know some sweeps do have their gas license, so they're plumbers. But you're going to want to consider that when you're working through this project, because a gas line could be the expensive part of the whole thing, depending on where your gas is. So make sure you keep that in mind. If you're thinking about the overall project, that gas line is going to probably be the first thing you want to think about. And then once you know what you're going to do for that, you can follow the rest of this. Am I right, Randy, or am I?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we're talking on preparing that fireplace for a ventless gas log set, but the gas supply to that fireplace is every bit as important as preparing it, because like you said, in your situation, you may have to go from the meter outside, underground, all the way around the house, which might be 100 feet, you know, versus somebody else, you know, that, you know, like, you know, my folks, I think it's, you know, about 20 feet and they have a basement and it can just come right up under and up underneath the firebox itself. So, you know, different applications. So you definitely want to get that checked out.
I think we've got our listeners all the way to selecting a gas log set. Is there anything jumping into your head that they might want to know?
No, I can't think of anything. Nothing else in regards to preparing the fireplace itself.
Excellent. Well, we appreciate all of our listeners out there. Now, we're recording this right before the holidays, but this is probably going to drop late January, early February. So I'm going to say it this way. if you live in the Northeast or in the North in general, it's time. Fly south. at least for 3 days.
Follow the birds.
Right? And if you're those folks who live in the South, please receive us, because we really do appreciate getting to escape the cold up here. Until next time, though, we really appreciate all of our listeners. Randy, thank you so much for joining me, brother. It's always a pleasure sitting with you.
Oh, my pleasure, man. I love it. You have a great afternoon. Enjoy it.
Happy winter by the time they're listening to this.